Mathava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Only the book. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo जय वंशपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद ऐसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज शिला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवत महापुराण की ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, the King of Demons. Text number 45. Na Shrota Nanuvaktavyam Mukhyo Api Atra Mahan Asuhu Yas Tva Ihendriyavan ātmā sa chānyah prāna deyo na shrota nanuvaktavyam mukhyo api atra mahanasuh Yastva ihendri yavan ātmā sachanyah prana dehayo na shrota nanuvaktavyam mukhyo api atra mahanasu Yastva ihendriya yavan ātmā sachanya prana dehayo na shrota nanuvaktavyam mukhyopi atra mahanashu Yastva ihendriyavan ātmā sachanyam prana dehayo Nashrotananuvaktavyam Muktopyatra mahanasuh Yastvendriya mahanatma Nanuktananuvaktavyam Manasu Indriya Mahatma Prana dehe. Vaishnavis. Na, not. Shrota, the listener. Na, not. Anuvakta, the speaker. Ayam, this. Mukhya, chief. Api, although. Atra, in this body. Mahan, the great. Asuhu, life air. Yaha, he who. Tu, but. Iha, in this body. Indriyavan, possessing all the sense organs. Ātmā, the soul. Saha, he. Cha, and. Anyaha, different. Prana dehayo, from the life air and the material body. Translation. In the body, the most important substance is the life air, but that also is neither the listener nor the speaker. Beyond even the life air, the soul also can do nothing, for the Supersoul is actually the director, in cooperation with the individual soul. The Supersoul conducting the activities of the body is different from the body and the living force. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead distinctly says in the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. Although the ātmā or soul is present in every material body, dehino smin yathā dehe, he is not actually the chief person acting through the senses, mind and so on. The soul can merely act in cooperation with the Supersoul because it is the Supersoul who gives him direction to act or not to act. Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. One cannot act without his sanction, for the Supersoul is upadrishta and anumanta, the witness and the sanctioner. One who studies carefully under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master can understand the real knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the conductor of all the activities of the individual soul and the controller of their results as well. Although the individual soul possesses the indriyas or senses, he is not actually the proprietor, for the proprietor is the Supersoul. Consequently, the Supersoul is called Rishikesha, and the individual soul is advised by the directions of the Supersoul to surrender to him and thus be happy. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Thus, he can become immortal and be transferred to the spiritual kingdom, where he will achieve the highest success of an eternal blissful life of knowledge. In conclusion, the individual soul is different from the body, senses, living force and the airs within the body. And above him is a Supersoul who gives the individual soul all facilities. The individual soul who renders everything to the Supersoul lives very happily within the body. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshu Prishabhano Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Bhagavatam class today, seeking blessings for all the senior Vaishnavas to speak something for my purification. So today we are continuing the discussion Hiranyakashipu and his teachings. So it's very interesting that the discussion here is on, first of all, the fact that we are not the body but we are something else. And then Hiranyakashipu is going one step further by saying that we are not just something else, but there is something beyond us who is controlling us. So we are not the body, we are spirit soul. But that spirit soul also is not independent. It is dependent on the Supersoul. So, the word deva comes from the word divukridyam, which means the one who loves to play is called deva. Now, whom does the Lord love to play with? With us. He loves to play with us. So the Lord plays a puppet show with us. So we are all like puppets, and the whole world is a show. So it says in the Vishnu Sahasranam, this verse that says, Kim ekam devatam loke. So which means that we should understand that the whole world is called Loka. And therefore, when we understand that this whole world is created by the Lord, and all of us are like puppets in His hand, and this world is His game, is His puppet show. And He is playing with us, and we are all acting like puppets. People feel that Brahma is that creator. When we say, Kim ekam devatam loke, so that creator which is being spoken about is Brahma. Many people feel like that. But Brahma himself is created. So once he is created, he starts thinking, who has created me? And then he sees that there's a lotus on which he is created. He slides down the stalk and he's trying to figure out who has created me. And 500 Chaturyugas pass in this, sliding down the stalk to figure out who has created me. And then he hears he hears this sentence which says, bring the 16th and the 21st letter together and then you will know me. So what is the 16th and the 21st letter? The 16th letter is ta and the 21st letter is pa. So bring the 16th and 21st letter together, it becomes tapa. And Brahma is a created person, but he's higher than us. So Brahma and the living entity are both similar compared to Parabrahman, which is Supreme Lord. And though we are very small in compared to Brahma, Brahma in compared to Parabrahman is also small. So we are small in compared to Brahma. It's like, for example, if you compare an ant with a human being, the ant is very insignificant. And the human being seems significant. But if you compare a human being with Brahma, the human being is insignificant. And Brahma seems very significant. But if you compare Brahma with the Parabrahma, Brahma seems insignificant. And Parabrahma is very significant. One Acharya mentions Brahma's relationship with the Parabrahma with an example. And here is a very beautiful example. See, one time a child asks his mother, there is a beautiful moon over there. He says, can I touch it? So the mother says, it is too far. How will you touch it? The next day, the mother tells the child, like, she's doing some kitchen work and the child is roaming around there. She tells him, can you climb on the attic? There's a platform there and get me some rice flour. And the child climbs and helps her with the rice flour. And then she tells him, come down. And then he asks, yesterday you said from below the moon is very, very far. Now I am on top. Is the moon close to me now? So then the mother says, compared to yesterday, you are higher, but you are still too far away from the moon. So yesterday the moon was, 500,000 kilometers. Today the moon is 400,000 4,99,999.001 kilometers away. How much difference? Just little bit, one little difference. So similarly, the Acharyas say, compared to the Parabrahman, both us and Brahma are in the same position. Just that we are down and Brahma is sitting on the attic. That much only the difference is, basically. So just like a small child wants to do cooking, the mother does not want to discourage the child. Child comes to the mother and says, please give me, I want to do cooking. So the mother doesn't want to discourage the child. So what she does is that she'll cut all the vegetables. She'll prepare everything. And then when everything is ready, she'll call the child. And then she'll tell the child, put this here, put this here, And the child will just do that. And then finally when guests come, the mother will say, see, child cooked everything. And the child will really feel, he or she has cooked everything, So similarly, the Acharyas say that the world is created by the Lord. And therefore, he is called the father of creation. So here, the question that is being asked is that, who is that one God that we have to worship? Priyavrat Maharaj, he was the son of Swayambhuva Manu. And Priyavrat Maharaj had a son whose name was Agnidra. And Agnidra, he married an Apsara. And both of them had a son whose name was Nabhi. And Nabhi married Meru Devi. And at that point, when they did a yajna together, Nabhi and Meru Devi. And the Lord appeared at the end of the yajna. They asked the Lord, we want to have a son who's equal to you. The Lord said, there is no one like that. I only have to come as a son. And then the Lord himself appeared as the son of Nabhi and Meru Devi, and he was named Rishabhadev. So here the Lord is saying, there is no one like me. That's the proof. So if you want to say, find someone like God, there is no one like God, anywhere close. The farthest is Brahma, who is also on the attic only, So practically there is no one like him, anywhere close by. In South India, there is a very beautiful temple, a beautiful town called Kumbakonam. And in this town, there is one Divyadesam, one of the holy places of Vishnu worship. And in this place, in Kumbakonam, there was a rishi whose name was Markandeya Rishi. So now, in this town, the rishi found one small girl who did not have any parents. So this rishi adopted her. And he called her as Bhuma. The word Bhuma means the one who is the blessing of Bhumi and Mahalakshmi. So this girl was, small, but she began to learn cooking, though she was very small. One day, a very old person came to Markandeya Rishi and he asked the sage, I need to find a good bride. I'm looking for a good bride. Do you know anyone who is a good bride suitable for me? He is a very old person. And he is asking this sage, I want to find a good bride, So this Markandeya Rishi was shocked to see that this old man, he is wanting to marry. Markandeya Rishi was like hesitating to say anything. But before that, the old man only asked Markandeya Rishi. He said, I heard you have a little girl. I want to marry her. Markandeya Rishi said, she's so small. She's a small girl. And just to give a very simple way of understanding. So he said, she's so small that she doesn't even know what is the proportion of salt to put in food. Now, many of us also may not know, So the Indian definition, the Vedic definition of, who is small and who is old is according to whether you have the ability and the maturity to put right proportion of salt in the food. So he just said, my girl is so small, she doesn't know how to put salt in the food in the right proportion. And Markandeya Rishi said, so this old man said, my doctor has told me not to eat salt. And, I will not eat salt from now onwards, So, Markandeya Rishi called his daughter and he told her, he was very confused now. He didn't know what to say, He called his daughter. And the daughter, when she looked at this old man, she said, small girl. She said, if at all I will ever marry, I'll marry him only. So that girl, when she said like that, Markandeya Rishi was bewildered, But the moment she said like that, that old man appeared like a young man. Because the Supreme Lord who had come, disguised as an old man, just to test Markandeya Rishi and this girl. And this girl immediately understood that this is not some old man, this is the Supreme Lord himself. And then the Lord showed his, original form. And the Lord gets married to this little girl. And the most amazing thing is that if you go even today to that particular temple, the name of that deity is known as Uppili Appan. Uppu in Tamil means salt. Uppu illada Appan. Appan means Lord, That means he is the Lord that doesn't eat salt. So even today, the deities have no salt in the preparation. Whatever is cooked for the deities, no salt is there in it, So that is the kind of person that he is. So this girl, when she heard the name, she was feeling very bad. How can her husband be called saltless man? That's the name. Uppiliya Appan means saltless man, basically. So she gave another definition for her husband. She said, there is another way of translating that word Uppili Appan. It means the one who has no match. Uppu illam Appan. That means there is only one God and he has no other match. That's the form of the Lord over there in that Divyadesam, basically. So Krishna is someone who is so unique, so special, that there is no match to him at all. All of us in our lives, we experience the presence of the Supersoul, the Paramatma in our lives. But we don't always experience it in tangible ways. We experience it sometimes in very small, intangible ways. Of course, there are some souls that experience the Lord directly, like the way this sage experienced it. The Lord directly came to him. But for most of us, our experience of the Lord, the Paramatma within our hearts, is through the guidance that we receive in the form of intuitions. The guidance that we receive in the form of messages the Lord gives us, in the form of experiences that we all go through in our own lives. We can see Krishna's presence if we want to see his presence. So one of the name of the Lord is known as Purushottama. How did this name come? There are three tattvas in the Vedanta: Achit, Chit and Ishvara. Achit means that which doesn't give space to knowledge is known as Achit. Chit means that which gives space to knowledge. And Ishvara means the one who controls both is called Ishvara. The one who controls Chit and Achit. Together, he is called Ishvara or the controller. Chit is divided into three parts. So Chit is divided into three parts. There is a Baddhatma. That means there are people who are bound by karma, very strongly bound by the laws of karma. And then there is a Muktatma. Muktatmas are people who are attained liberation. It's like those who have got green card here, Suddenly they feel liberated, And Nityatma are those who are originally staying in Vaikuntha. They are always staying there only, and they don't come out anywhere. So Muktatmas are those who come out of Vaikuntha and then they have returned back. They've got a green card to go back to the spiritual world. They're called Muktatmas. And Baddhatmas are those who are here, still stuck, not getting any visa. They're still feeling that I have not reached America as yet. The spiritual world, literally. And Ishvara is called Purusha. He is different from Achit. So he is called Utpurusha. So he is different from the Baddhatma, and therefore he is called Uttara Purusha. and he's different from the Mukta ātmā also. Therefore, he is called Uttama Purusha. And therefore, Tama means Tama is like EST, like tallest, you can say, right? Like that. Best among Purushas. So here, Purushottama means the one who is the best among the Purushas, who is the topmost. It's called Uttama Purusha, basically. So like that, the Supreme Lord is the topmost among all living entities in this world. When we worship the Lord is called by many, many names. And one of the names of the Lord is known as Stava Priya. What is the meaning of Stava Priya? Stava Priya means the one who loves being celebrated in any way the devotee celebrates. Stava Priya means the one who loves festivals. Stava Priya means the one who loves to be glorified. Stava Priya means the one who loves to be appreciated. Now all of us are also Stava Priya in one sense, isn't it? We love to be appreciated. We love to be glorified. We love to hear our praise. We love to, to celebrate, our birthdays and achievements like that. But all the qualities that we get, originally we get from the Lord only. So if we have any quality in us, that quality originally comes from the Lord. So if we feel like being appreciated and glorified, that desire comes from the Lord only. The Lord has that, desire to be appreciated and glorified. So when we come to the Lord, we should discard all our fears. And we should just come to the Lord for celebrating Him. Just enjoy His company and presence, basically. In South India, there is a temple known as Srirangam. And in Srirangam, there is one very interesting festival that they celebrate every year. It is known as Tirupavadai Utsavam. Once a year they celebrate this festival. And it's a very interesting festival, basically. So what they do is that, in this festival, they offer huge quantity of bhoga to the Lord. Normally, they offer small quantity of bhoga to the Lord. Like say for example, when we offer bhoga to the deities, there's a lot cooked. Cooking is done for 500 people, but you don't put all that in front of the Lord. You only put one small bowl in front of the Lord, isn't it? In this festival, whatever they cook, they bring in front of the Lord. Suppose they cook for 1,000 people, the full quantity they bring in front of the Lord, And then from the altar itself, they distribute prasad to everyone. So that's the kind of festival it is, So so after the festival is over, the first time, when the prasad is being, distributed, the first person that the prasad is offered to is the head of the Shiva Vaishnava Sampradaya, that is Ramanujacharya. So the pujari, the head pujari over there, he comes out of the altar and he shouts out, "Jiyar!" He calls out like that, loudly. Then Ramanujacharya extends his hand. And then, that prasad is offered in the hand of Ramanuja. And then he eats it. Then everybody in Srirangam, practically every single person in Srirangam comes over there to eat. And everybody brings different boxes and all, There is so much quantity of prasad that day. Nobody cooks at home that day. So, one particular year, Ramanujacharya was out on a pilgrimage. Then he was returning back to Srirangam. On his way back, he was passing by the river, which is known as Kollidam. He was passing by the banks of the river. And as he was walking by the banks of the river, he saw a group of children playing there. They were small, tiny kids. They were playing on the mud, the banks of the river. They were making mud castles and stuff like that, And Ramanuja just became very curious. These boys were all, dhoti kurta, Shiva Vaishnava tilak and all. They were like dressed like Shiva Vaishnavas. And they were playing on the banks of the river. You know what they were playing? They were celebrating this festival. And they created a sand temple of Ranganath, like a replica of Ranganath made of sand. And inside that sand temple, they made a small, altar. And on that small altar, they made, see if you have seen Ranganath deity, it's on a platform, right? And the deity is a form of Vishnu which is lying down. They made a sand platform made of sand. And on that platform, they put a stick, a wooden stick, representing Ranganath. And then they made small bowls of prasad that they were offering to the Lord. So in front of the deity, they made small bowls made up of mud, and they filled it with water from the Kolidam river, basically. And they were enacting the entire pastime of offering and everything. And then one pujari, one boy acted as a pujari, and he came out of the altar and he said, "Cheer!" And another boy is supposed to come and receive the prasad. Instead, they saw one big hand coming. Ramanuja himself came to receive the prasad. And these boys were bewildered. This is like the Acharya of the whole Sampradaya standing over there. And then Ramanacharya was very elderly by this time. And he held his hand. And the boys were shocked. Ramanacharya, give me the prasad. And these boys actually took that little cup made of mud. And they poured the water into Ramanacharya's hand. And Ramanacharya actually drank the water made of mud. And then he declared to his disciples. So this festival is supposed to happen the next day. He declared to his disciples, the festival has already happened. Cancel the festival there. That year, the entire festival is cancelled because Ramanuja experienced Ranganath there. Ramanuja looked inside that little, sand temple of Ranganath, and he saw that little stick. In that stick, Ramanuja actually experienced Ranganath's presence. Imagine that. What a beautiful story, isn't it? This is how great Acharyas experience Krishna. So even when a small child is celebrating, Krishna is Tavapriya. That celebration also is considered to be a celebration. That celebration also is considered to be valid, bona fide, and very much accepted by the Lord. Apparently it seems to be like a stick. But where is the Lord not present? If the young little boys are experiencing Krishna in that little stick, Krishna will be there. And to validate that, Ramanuja himself accepted that prasad, and he cancelled an entire big festival, in the city. And that is the power of Sanatana Dharma. So in Sanatana Dharma, there are 3 sentences we need to remember. There is a creator and there is a creation. This is sentence number 1. There is a creator and there is a creation. Sentence number 2 is that the creator is in the creation. So there is a creator and there is a creation. Sentence number 2, the creator is in the creation. And sentence number 3, the creator is the creation. That means Krishna is present very much in every aspect of the creation of the Lord. So that's why if you study the Bhagavad Gita, the entire 10th chapter of Gita, Krishna is talking about how to experience Him everywhere. Look at the sun, that's Krishna, the eyes of Krishna. Look at the moon, that's Krishna. Practically every single entity in this world, Krishna is saying, I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. Where He is not there. So therefore, limited people look for Krishna only in the deities. Krishna says in the Gita, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvatra mahi pashyati. He says, seeing everything in Krishna and seeing Krishna in everything. Seeing everything in Krishna is easy, right? When you look at the beautiful form of the deities, we understand everything is in Krishna. But seeing Krishna in everything is not easy. How do you see Krishna in an angry person? How do you see Krishna in someone who is a destitute? How do you see Krishna in someone who is an atheist? How do you see Krishna in wood? How do you see Krishna in mud? How do you see Krishna in flowers? So Sanatana Dharma teaches us to see God everywhere and in everyone. And that's what the whole idea of Supersoul is. the super soul is not only present in chit, in living entities who have life, but the super soul is also present in achit, in things that don't have life. So practically in every atom the super soul is present, and in between two atoms also super soul is present. That's how the Lord is all pervading. So Hiranyakashipu here is trying to give us philosophy theoretically. Obviously he doesn't understand it. His son Prahlad has understood it, and therefore when Hiranyakashipu is saying super soul is present everywhere, he doesn't realize it. And therefore he is asking Prahlad later on, is he there? Is he there? Arre Baba, you only told your philosophy that he is everywhere, but you are only not understanding the philosophy. But Prahlad has actually understood that philosophy. So there's a very thin line between knowledge and wisdom. The thin line is called realization. And therefore many of us, at this point in time, probably our knowledge is theoretical. But at some point, maybe by the mercy of great Vaishnavas, we might have a practical and a realistic understanding of the theory. And that's when we will really have realization of that. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments?
I've got two. You started off by saying that we're all puppets, and Krishna's the puppeteer. That seems to indicate no free will. So how do you square that?
Yeah. So within that, so the idea of free will is very much there. So Krishna doesn't, not give us any free will. There's definitely the element of free will.
How does a puppet have free will?
So the puppet in this case, in our case, is a chit, is a live puppet. So there is a string, but it's an invisible string basically. So Krishna gives us the free will, but within that free will is a sanction. I'll just give a small example to help understand that. For example, you get into a taxi and you tell the taxi driver, take me to this place. So the taxi driver drives you all the way to that particular place, drops you off there, you get off and you say thank you and you pay him. Now, in this example, the person who's getting into the taxi is us, the ātmā. The taxi driver is a Paramatma, is God. And the taxi is material nature. So until and unless the ātmā expresses desire, the Paramatma doesn't sanction it. But if the person expresses desire, but the Paramatma doesn't sanction it, the material nature is not going to move. But the Paramatma will not take action till you express a desire. So there is an element of free will also, but at the same time there's an element of control also the Paramatma has.
You can tell the taxi driver, pull over, I'm getting out.
Yeah, but you can't do that in an airplane.
You used the example of a taxi.
Okay, so I'm
using your example.
I'm revising the example. I'm saying, let us suppose.
Revise it by not using the word puppet.
Okay, fine. I'll not use the word puppet. Sorry. Thank you.
Can I ask my other question? Now that
Yes.
I get the hot seat?
Yeah, please.
We were talking about this, periodically in this section, that we find that Hiranyakasipu is speaking very eloquently and very accurately. So how is it that in his own practice, his own life, he's an asuric, he's cruel, he's an atheist, but how is he speaking such learned philosophy and quoting from the Vedas? How does he square that within his mind? Is he just blinded by passion, or how's that going on?
Yeah. In my understanding, we were discussing this last time, in my understanding, this seems to be more a manipulation technique. That means he's using philosophy to get something done. So a lot of people they use philosophy, they understand philosophy well, they use the philosophy to get their work done, basically. So that means they are not interested in following it themselves, but they know this will have the desired impact on people. So there might be many people like Hiranyakashipu who are absolutely perfectly speaking philosophy. But the moment they stop speaking, they don't live by that philosophy. So that means they're using that philosophy as a way to manipulate people who are listening to them, or who are, whom they are trying to convince about a particular aspect of life. Yeah. It's a
tool to their ends. And
correct.
Okay, if I speak like this,
Correct, yeah. It'll work. So that means, so they will speak like this to some people because they know this will work, and they'll speak something else to some other people because they know that will work, So this, I was telling, this is a word called Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism is manipulation, basically. These are people who are very experts in manipulating. They know exactly what to say to get things done for them.
yeah, like you've got Christian preachers.
Yeah.
And they can speak from the Bible very accurately, but you find out that they're just, and touch your screen and I'll cure your cancer. Send me that money. What they want is the money, and they're speaking a way to win you over. Yeah, okay, I accept that. It's a good answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question.
Just give me 10 seconds. This introduction of the Supersoul here in the translation, which is probably the basis of his whole purport here, as far as I can tell, this is Prabhupada's own realization, because Vishwanath Chakravarti, he stays with the soul. This is one of the instances where I'm saying, the Supersoul, that's God. Is Hiranyakashipu now really glorifying God here? Because, and from one point, Prabhupada is understanding it that way, explaining it that way. But from another point, he just goes as far as the soul in this, because he's just consoling them. He's not trying to turn them on to.
As far as I understand, he is talking about God, but eventually he says, I am that God. That's the next step. So everything is correct to the particular point. And then when it comes to the point of defining who that God is, he says, I am that God. So that's where it deviates. Hare Krishna.
Maitreya, you there?
Haribo, thank you. Nice class, thank you very much. I had a question. I wanted to make a brief comment following on Bhajan Rai Maharaj's question about the analogy of puppets. There was the poem that Srila Prabhupada wrote in Boston Harbor, make me dance as you like. So the attitude of the pure devotee, even though we're using our independence to voluntarily serve Krishna, still there's the point where we realize we are completely dependent on Krishna. Like the preacher presenting the book is absorbed in prayer. He realizes, I can't make this other soul do anything. It's all up to the Paramatma in the heart. It doesn't mean that we're automaton puppets, but there is the idea that I've used my free will and got myself in a lot of trouble. Let me surrender my free will and just try to use it in accordance with what Krishna wants. So the devotee may sometimes use the analogy of a puppet, but it doesn't mean that the puppet is the lifeless doll just being controlled by Krishna. There's a relationship there. My question was, you mentioned this sublime idea, Krishna is everywhere, and he mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita also. Srila Rupa Goswami, under the direction of Lord Chaitanya, gave it in his literature as the idea of yukta vairagya, of seeing everything as something that we can use to serve Krishna. Are those two ideas related with each other?
Yes, Prabhu. Very much related to each other. The materialistic philosophy is an abusive philosophy, which means that everything I see, I use it for my pleasure. So that means I am seeing this body. I don't see it as connected with Krishna. I see it as it's for my pleasure. So I see some substance. I see that is for my pleasure. So everything in this world, the materialistic philosophy is seeing it for their pleasure point of view. But spiritual consciousness is seeing everything as connected with Krishna. If I see a flower, I start thinking how I can offer this to Krishna. And that means I see divinity in that flower. If I see a person, I start thinking, like Hanumanji saw Ravan, and the first thing he thought was, if only this person was a devotee, he would have been so powerful, So even in Ravan, he was thinking how to engage Ravan in service of the Lord. So practically, that's the difference, and that's the similarity between the two concepts I was sharing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, yes.
May I?
Vijay, go.
Yes, thank you, Dravida Prabhu. You're most kind. Prabhu, The last sentence of the purport to the text you chose for today goes as follows. Quote, the individual soul who renders everything to the Supersoul lives very happily within the body, unquote. And Krishna in his Bhagavad Gita, he chants to Arjuna the following shloka, quote, one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme, unquote. So, based on all of this, my question is, why is it that if everything happens related to the happiness of the devotee within, why is it that Lord Chaitanya's movement is so based in the association with devotees?
So you mean...
Shouldn't we all isolate ourselves and live with and become satisfied with the happiness that happens within?
Okay. Thank you for your question. It's a very deep question.
You're welcome.
I'll give you my thoughts on it. What I understand is that, yes, we all ultimately need to find happiness within. So no matter, even if you are in the association of 500 devotees, you're still alone only, technically. So you are technically in the association of 500 people, but ultimately you are alone with the Supersoul. That's the reality of life. That association of 500 devotees is important for us to help realize that fact that I ultimately need and the only shelter I have is the Supreme Lord. So the more association we have, the more affirmation we get about this particular aspect. So all the association in the world ultimately helps us prepare ourselves for our relationship with Krishna and for deepening our connection with the Lord. That's my understanding.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
This time I can confirm. I have a letter that Prabhupada wrote to me. I wrote complaining that I didn't have any good association. This doesn't discount. I mean, Mahaprabhu says the worst thing, worse than being under in a cage over fire, is to be without the association of devotees. So, you know, Prabhupada said intelligence means to balance different points within the mind. We're not discounting the value of association. It's essential. At the same time, Prabhupada wrote to me, and he says it in other places, but when he wrote to me, he said, you ultimately have to become your own acharya. It's between you and Krishna. Because Prabhupada said, he said that because at the time of death, you're alone. And he gave the example that, you know, you can give all good instructions to somebody on the ground, but ultimately they got to fly the plane themselves. So ultimately, it's our relationship with Krishna, our love of Krishna, our surrender to Krishna, that is the essence of the thing. And without that, I mean, we're all going to stand alone at that point, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Anybody else out there in the ether?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. I would like to thank every one of you for your kind association and your shelter for the last 3-4 days, especially Dravida Prabhu. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We accept your departure, the understanding you plan on returning.
Surely. Surely.
Come back on a Saturday or Sunday. I mean, I know Saturday and Sundays are the big days
Right.
everywhere.
Surely.
It'd be nice to have you on a Saturday and Sunday
I'll surely plan
for
once.
our congregation.
Yeah, surely.